Hi, this is D13, and welcome to Thundertown. So first up at the Waterworks is the Reservoir. This area of the town was originally just meant to be a decorative feature. I started off with the skull that's up above that you can barely see, and a pool of water at the bottom here. Originally there was a large river that ran through the town. So I removed that river and then started thinking about where the town would be getting its water from. So I built the upper portion of this, and I started thinking, I need this to really be more industrial looking. So I started building these tiers. So the water is actually down below in the lower tier. And the upper tiers have got this pane of fake water, like a pane of glass that looks like water. And the reflections from the water underneath it actually, when you're looking down from top down, it looks like there's actual water on every tier. So then I wanted to have some little, spillover areas, sort of like a dam, possibly something where, the water comes in at the top and then it goes down each of these levels. Maybe it gets cleaned a little bit as it goes through these levels. I imagine that to be true based on what you'll be seeing here shortly. So I made these, used these waterfalls and turned them blue, again, using the same waterfall as above. And, I brought in the wall from elsewhere in the town and through the graffiti and all the trash all around it, although part of this wall that you're going to see, I'm going to clean up some of that area. So along the side here, along the rocks, I wanted this to be an area where the military personnel or the guards of this area could actually move from ring to ring or area to area. So I put in these just walkways and stairs along the outer edge on both sides. You'll only see me do one side here. Once all this was finished, I went back and put in all the little military people and stairs and all kinds of other doors and things like that that would to decorate the area a little more. And here we go. Bull sharks. So there's this wonderful, absolutely amazing looking animated shark on the workshop by 𝗬𝗪𝗀𝗀, and I just had to find a place to put it. And I thought, but sharks are saltwater. Well, it turns out bull sharks can live in freshwater. They often go up the Mississippi River, I believe, and so I thought, hey, maybe in this weird future they were able to get some sharks and some bull sharks and put them in here. We have a bad guy or sort of an evil dictator who runs the town. Why not have sharks? Next up is water treatment. So the water treatment area, I wanted to start off with some sort of, inland water treatment buildings. Something that would actually be functional. There's a hidden water intake and sewage area that's I'll probably never show anyone. Maybe there'll be a behind the scenes episode. But I thought it would be cool to have some water treatment here and some water intake. So there is some there's a water intake that's hidden, and I've got all these little water treatment areas. So now I'm going to be starting to run pipes. This is all, they're all for decoration, but something that I think makes a really good water treatment area in Cities Skylines is, sort of overdoing it a little bit, having a lot of pipes and a lot of these buildings that look like they belong for a water treatment facility. So like I said, these water treatment buildings are actually functional. I'm going to be putting in some water tanks that are functional, but they're like the water towers. I'll be bringing those in. I have them all over the city. I love these pipes, and they're you can really manipulate them quite a bit. They're from two different sets of pipes, and I just have them colored really close together. So Here I'm bringing the pipe up over the top so that it can, you know, sort of enter the top center of this building. I'm not even sure technically that this would even be somewhat correct, but I really like the idea of having pipes come in over the top of each of these. In the next episode, you're going to see me use the same pipes to a great degree, but instead of using them for water, they're going to be used probably for oil. So I'm basically just using two shapes here. I'm using the straight piece, although I have 3 different lengths of straight piece, and I'm using these curved, like 90-degree turns. I've also added in, you know, I also have these like risers that let you go up and over things, like over the road. And I'm using my favorite rusty water tank, and I put it along here. So this is the basic look that I'm going to repeat on each of these going down here. So now I'm trying to figure out the logistics of how to bring these pipes in all the way across, and then the fact that I've got a little bit more piping possibly than needed. I've got 9 pipes and 6 water treatment areas. Here I'm taking one of those 90 degrees and I'm really shrinking it down to be just a little nub. Something I can use like a sleeve here for where the pipes would be fitted together. I go through, you're not going to see it here, I go through and I do all of them. Every little spot where they would have been a connector, I did them all. So now I've copied the water tanks from over in the ore area, the set of 5 here. I've done a double row, and this is going to be considered the water storage area. So like you'll have the treatment, the water comes down, it goes through the filtration, goes through this extra water treatment area, then it goes into this area. There'll be a pump house here shortly. The buildings you can see here that are sort of blue colored, the industrial buildings, I got rid of those and replaced them with a nice rusty warehouse looking building. Wasn't sure how I wanted to do the 90-degree turn or the 45-degree turn on this, so I just put a small piece of pipe in there and a couple of these little collars, and there we go. So this is the building I'm talking about, the rusty warehouse. This is one of my favorite buildings, and I'm going to be reusing this all over the town, as if they have one sort of blueprint that they go from when they're building a lot of these buildings. So I'm copying that building over a few times. I figured I'd like to see this building multiple times throughout here because I'm going to decorate them very similar because it would be buildings that were in the same area. So they'll have a very similar look. And I used some of the network surfaces to cover over the concrete that was around each of these water treatment buildings. All right, so the detailing begins. So the next step I felt was to sort of get the detailing started. Let's get going with, trash and, busted broken vehicles, little pipes everywhere, stuff like that. And what you see here is not quite the final product. I did come back and I changed quite a bit of things along the way, like adding roads and things like that through here. So of course more little pipes and my favorite little rusty water tank. Like I said in an earlier episode, I think that sort of overdoing it with something like that rusty water tank, like having it everywhere, I think lends not only to the look, of consistency throughout the town, but I like kind of the, like when things are just a little too overdone, it's a little too much, too much of something can be a good thing. So here I'm just dropping in a bunch of dirt decals to, grimy this up a little bit so that I can continue moving through here with other things. Along the top edge here, I did add a lot of rocks along the bottom of the cliff faces. And I don't think I showed it on video, but I did copy one of those mine entrances and put it here, and it actually has a connecting road that goes to one of the upper areas. So vehicles will go in and out of this area and through there. So here I put a bunch of cracks. There's some really fun crack decals on the workshop. So I found a few of them that I really liked, and I put cracks everywhere in here. But now I'm adding a few doors to the back of these buildings. And I like these doors because they change colors. So it turned out every one of the buildings had a different colored door, I believe. So here I'm bringing in a circular shape of that water that I was mentioning earlier and turned it into a procedural object. This lets me put a color of water in here that's a little more blue. I liked the look, but everything here is tan and brown. And having the tanks of water be a little too brown, it wasn't popping. You know what I mean? There wasn't that contrast that I was looking for. So I came back in here and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. Now it's time for sheds and barrels and all the other things that need to be dropped throughout here. And there's this random barrel, like a barrel, what they call barrel variation thing. You can just start plopping it down and you get tons of different color barrels. Kind of like how it looks like this, with lots of different colors for variation in the barrels. Here comes the trash finally. So yeah, I'm thinking these buildings go along with the tanks that are directly in front of them. They're part of the process of several of the assets in the water treatment area. You have these round tanks with a building connected. So I thought it would be really nice to sort of follow that theme. But this, like I said, this is taking it up a notch, like making things a little bit bigger than they actually are. So here now I'm just bringing out wholesale all of the trash, like right there, just to one of the other buildings over there. So this is where I get my shrubs from. There's like one spot where I've got all the shrubs like how I like them, and I can just sort of copy paste and sort of drag them in here. So this way I'm very consistent with my shrub theme, and I can move them around however I see fit. And there actually I've come in already and put in the water towers off camera. And they are connected, they are functioning water towers. And then, this is just decoration here for these round buildings. There are some invisible walking paths all around here. And I'm going to come back in later, and I've actually done so, and I've put in some buildings, the asset, service cubes. I put the service cubes underneath a lot of these buildings so that there are cars coming in and using the little invisible parking lots and little industrial buildings inside some of these. Which is, you see that green truck a lot with the sort of orange barrels in the back. That's a garbage truck. It's a little bit bigger than the other trucks. I made a mistake when importing it and left it at the 125% size or something like that. So I'm going to have to re-import it as a different garbage truck, but I wanted it to be green like the garbage trucks so that I could follow along. So there's a really cool thing. It's like an oil tank from a train car, and it's up on concrete, and it actually acts as a water tower. So I stuck one in there and made, hooked up the pipes. Still, I love these vents that came from the Dole Nuclear set, and I just put them everywhere. I just love the moving things. When things are moving, rotating, the smoke, things like that. So next up is the power lines. This is something that I usually do off camera. I haven't showed how I've really done much of this before. And I've got these telephone poles that you saw in a bonus content of one of the previous episodes, and I bring them in here, and then I bring in these power lines. And these little power lines, they are so hard to work with, especially if you've got other networks and things. You have to turn off everything but electrical wires. And then sometimes when you're putting them so close together, it's hard to grab a hold of the little circles on the end to move them around. So here you see I've got a nice 4 in a row, and I've copied it over a few times so I can sort of run into the back area here. This is the road I was talking about that I added. I didn't show adding this road between the buildings here, and I sort of slid the building over a little bit. Now here, where it goes into the cliff, into this old mining entrance, I thought I might need some way to get electricity to this area where we've got these little vents and things on the sides of this. So I brought in some power lines, and I hit a telephone pole in there and brought the lines in. So now I'm going to I'll go back and do this with all of the mine entrances at some point when I run power all down, up and down every road, to save some usage of networks and props and things like that. I'm gonna wait to come back and do that until after I've had put in most of everything else. I'm gonna detail inside areas, inside these little confined spaces that I'm building. I will go ahead and put the power lines in there, but the main power lines that run sort of the extra decoration power lines aren't going to be put in until much later. So I'm just running it all the way down the back here, and it's really interesting because these power lines will extend power. They're like real power, like power poles that you have in the game from the vanilla. And they got to the end here, and they for some reason weren't connected. So I dropped in that little red brick building you can see here on the right. There's 2 of them here, and both of those are electrical substations. They generate electricity, is what I'm saying. So I actually will plop them around occasionally. Normally I use just the hidden asset, the block asset for electricity, but I'm trying to build this to be a little more, I don't know what the word is, I guess functional. And I want everything to have a purpose and just use service cubes usually to fulfill that purpose. But if I can get away with using real assets from the game, or some assets somebody's created that do the same thing, I'll do that, because I think that makes it even more realistic, as much as it can be in a computer simulation, I guess. So here we go with the finishing touches. I'm putting some lights up on the top of these water towers, and I snagged the military guys that I have on every other water tower throughout the entire town. Now, something I really wanted to use was this oil industry worker. I like the look of them. They have like hard hats, and they walk around. So I just dropped a ton of them in here, and you'll see that they'll just start walking around. It actually gives it some life. I dragged a bus stop or a bus line and put it right there, so the bus runs around the entire town. There's just one line, and there's only a couple of buses on it, but at least it brings the people from where they live to these more industrial-like areas. And I'm just moving my pipes around here and just sort of finishing up. I have so many assets, sometimes it takes a while to find what I'm looking for. I really love how this area turned out. So I went and I grabbed some more of those bushes, and I just started putting them all over this area along the walls. I come back in here with a different type of dirt decal that I like putting in areas where it's almost like a shadow effect to me in certain areas where I put them along the walls or near the buildings, like a little extra dirt. You can never have too much junk laying around. It just looks great when there's more and more and more stuff. So sometimes the trees will start floating in the air, and if you grab all the trees and sort of sink them below the ground, they'll pop back up to ground level. And here we go now with the cinematics. So in our next episode, we have the Maximus Tire and Rubber Corporation, or company. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Let there be lights. So something I didn't do throughout the episode was show you adding lights everywhere, because I do come back in and add lights pretty much after I've finished the area. I don't really do it as I go along, although you did see me place a few red lights on tops of the water towers. So I'm copying and pasting all these lights in here to just any place I missed the lights when I copied and paste wall areas. And then these buildings, I really like these buildings when they have lights running across the top. I did this in the steel area. Or I should say the ore area. And then I'm lighting up that entire walkway where the military patrol. I found a few lights that, like there's a certain color I'm looking for. This orangish, yellowish, and then this certain type of brighter light with a little bit of an yellowish or orangish hue. I really want this place to not be overly bright, but I want everything lit in that sort of, like the old incandescent bulbs that people put over their patios. I kind of like that look to be like the look for the town at night, and have everything lit in that color.